Hello audience, this is Dr. Shagufta Praveen from Psychology Department, Azhar University, Mansehra. Today the topic of presentation is helping behavior. To begin with, we should be clear about the meaning of two key concepts. One is altruism and second is prosocial behavior. Altruism is performing an act voluntarily to help someone else when there is no expectations of a reward in any form, except perhaps the feeling of having done a good deed. Whereas pro-social behavior is a much broader category, it includes any act that helps or is designed to help others regardless of helpers' motives. Many pro-social acts are not altruistic in nature. For example, if somebody is volunteering to work for a charity, to impress his friends or to build up his resume for future job opportunities, actually that person is not acting altruistically in the pure sense, because he do have some hidden benefit for this particular act. Now coming towards the difference between altruism and pro-social behavior, we will discuss with reference to two important criteria. One is with reference to the outcome or the reward the person may be having, and the second is the person's selfishness or selflessness. Taking the first criteria, that is rewarding behavior as rewarding. Pro-social behavior is an action which is carried out to help someone in need with the intention of an internal or external reward. Whereas altruism, people with altruism will never ever demand anything in return. What they do for others and put their whole selves in the betterment and well-being of the mankind at no cost. Now coming toward the second important criteria, that is selfishness versus selflessness. When we define pro-social behavior, it is actually selfishness may be involved in pro-social behavior, whereas opposite of that, in altruism, there is always associated with selflessness. That means person is not having any hidden benefit for any action. Now we will discuss the theoretical background of altruism or the theoretical perspective of helping behavior. The very first theory is an evolutionary perspective. Scientists have long observed that pro-social behavior among animal species. Charles noted that rabbits make noise to warn other rabbits of predators. Similarly, the dominant male takes the most exposed position to respond to threats. Dolphins also show a fascinating pattern of rescuing injured peers. Evolutionary psychologists suggest that the tendency to help other may have high survival value for the individual's own gene, but not necessary for the individual. If we can take an example of a bird, suppose there's a bird that has fathered 6 chicks. Half the gene in each chick come from the father and half from the mother. Together, the 6 chicks have 3 times as many of the father's gene as he does himself. If the father sacrifices himself, that means he is actually saving the chicks, and particularly gene pool has been protected and replicated. Another important dimension of evolutionary theory is that evolutionary theory or this approach also leads to several specific predictions about the helping behavior. For example, animals should be most helpful to those that are genetically most closely linked to themselves. That means those animals or those species that are sharing the same gene pattern, they will like to help each other. They should be more helpful to immediate family than to the distant relatives or stranger. The theory also predicts that parents will behave more altruistically to healthy offspring than unhealthy offspring. As you know, healthy offspring do have more tendency to generate new generation as compared to unhealthy offspring. So this is naturally that parents will be likely to help the healthy offspring. Another further prediction is that mother will usually be more helpful to their offsprings than will father. The reasoning there is that in many species, male have the biological potential to produce a great many offsprings and so can generate new. A sociocultural perspective. Critics of the evolutionary perspective argue that the social factors are much more important that as compared to the biological factor in determining the pro-social behavior. So this phenomena was carried on by one of the important scientists known as Donald Campbell in 1975. He suggested that genetic evaluation may help explain a few basic pro-social behaviors such as parents if they are caring for their own youngs, or but if the same behavior has to be studied among strangers, this phenomenon cannot be applied. That means evolutionary theory cannot be practically applicable for explaining the pro-social behavior with contact to or in context to a stranger person. When we say social factors much are very much important. Genetic evaluation explains very few personal social behavior, and social cultural perspective suggests that pro-social behavior benefits the society. It has become a part of the social norms or the social roles. Social cultural perspective explains the pro-social behavior with reference to the society norm, roles, and the possible justice that has to be maintained. Sociocultural theory also explains the cultural similarities as basic norms of responsibility, reciprocity, and justice. First, a norm of social responsibility prescribes that we should help others who depends on us. Parents are expected to care for their children, and the social agencies also intervene if the parent fails to live up to their obligation. Teachers are supposed to take care of their students, coaches them, give them help and assistance. So, one way or another, all of us do have some duty as well as rights. When a person is performing his duty, that means he is giving full of his efforts in order to satisfy the social responsibility that has been imposed on him. Second important thing is a norm of reciprocity. It says that we should help those who help us. Several studies have shown that people are more likely to help someone from whom they have already been received aid. An altruistic behavior can be was explained and was studied in an illustrative study in which pair of college students were made to work together, and in the last the extra help and assistance when it was being given to one of the group, later on the same group was more likely to provide the same response or they reported the positive behavior. Next is the norm of justice. The norm of social justice suggests that rules about fairness and the justice distribution of resources. This suggests that while living in a society, it is necessary to have balance in all the duties and rights. Each and every individual should have justice with reference to the due rights as well as the due duties. So, if according to this principle, two people who make equal contribution to tasks should receive equal reward. If one receive more than other, the two will feel pressure to try to restore equality by um, having some type of frustration and stress. So this is necessary that a person should think that in order to keep the justice and healthy environment, the social justice should be maintained. When we discuss the social cultural perspective, number of possible elements do affect the chances of helping behavior. This may be taken as cultural variation. As you know, all the societies have norms relevant to the helping, but the specifics of whom we are expected to help and when vary from culture to culture. Research was conducted by John Miller in 1994. He demonstrated that how different nationality holders behave differently in a time of need, or the person who is in need of help is going to be responded differently because of the potential helper's nationality. For this purpose, he conducted a study um, for the comparison of pro-social behavior between Americans and Hindus, and the result was quite astonishing. As the table suggests that there are three possible level of, or we can say possible situation in which the person was being given different scenario. One was extreme need, second was moderate need, and third was minor need. And as you have noticed that two important groups of population sample was taken was Hindus and second was American. Okay, now coming towards the possible relationship, how it may affect the chances of provision of help. For this purpose, parents, friends, and strangers, if they are in need of help, so how much Hindus and Americans is going to respond positively. It was found that in extreme needs, Hindus were 99% were likely to provide help. For parents, for friends, and for strangers, they were 100% likely to provide help. Whereas on the same level, that is in extreme need, Americans would like to provide for their parents 100%, for friends 98%, and for strangers 96%. Taking the next possible category, that is moderate need, Hindus for their parents as 98%, friends as for 100%, and strangers for 99%. Whereas in Americans, moderate need, parents for 95%, friends for 78%, and strangers for 55%. In the minor need, parents were given help by Hindus, that is 96%, and for friends 97%, and for strangers 88%. Whereas among Americans, for in a minor need situation, parents were given 61%, friends were given 59, and stranger was given only 41. So it gives a very clear picture that from culture to culture, the behavior, or we can say the chances that how much one may produce helping behavior is going to be can be explained, such as Hindus and Americans specifically have dramatic change, specifically with reference to stranger. If a stranger person is in need of help, Hindus were more likely to provide help as compared to Americans. Next important theory that explains the helping behavior is learning perspective. As you know, social behavior is learned just like any other behavior. So the same phenomena, same strategy can be adapted in order to learn to produce helping behavior. So understanding of the helping behavior or pro-social behavior can be made simply through going all of these learning mechanism, that is reinforcement, observational learning, etc. The very first law or the phenomena is the reinforcement. Study was conducted on children by Mills and Grosick in 1989, in which they were being asked to share their snacks and toys with their fellow group members, and they were being said that they will be told that for this particular behavior they may get some reinforcement or reward. There were two types of praise that was utilized. One was known as dispositional praise, in which the child was personality wise being praised, saying that I guess you are the kind of a person who likes to help others whenever you can. That means the child was admired for his kind personality. Whereas the other form of appreciation, that was general praise, in which the child's action was appreciated, saying that it was a good that you gave some of your chips and toys to our poor children. So afterwards, Having these two different type of appraisal words or appreciation from the researcher, it was found that children who received dispositional praise were more likely to share their ties and chips with their co-members of the group. Next learning mechanism is observational learning. Observational learning suggests that watching pro-social models can also be important, as shown by research on a children's television program. For example, in one study, young children were made to watch a movie that was mainly based on a dog's behavior named Lassie. Half of the children watched an episode that focused on Lassie's effort to keep the puppy from being given away. At the story's climax, the puppy falls into the mine shaft and was unable to rescue the puppy herself. So Lassie brings her owner Jeff, and with the help of Jeff, she saved the puppy. In the neutral scene, a neutral episode in which Jeff's attempt to avoid taking violent lesson was actually made. Actually, Jeff Lassie helped the Jeff to avoid the violent lesson, and it was not as much involvement was found by the Lassie. After watching these two specific episodes, having too much concentrated episode, having the puppy scene, and the second was neutral scene in which Lassie was just helping his master, that is Jeff, in order to avoid violent lesson. It was found that those children who actually watched that particular episode that was based on the helping behavior produced by Lassie for rescuing the puppy, they were more likely to provide help as compared to those who have just watched the neutral scene in the other episode. The next important theory that can be applied in order to understand how and why we produce altruistic or pro-social behavior or helping behavior. This theory explains that earlier to provide help, we come up with a mental activity known as a decision making procedure that is mainly based on four different steps: naming, perceiving a need, taking personal responsibility, weighing cost and benefits, and the last one, that is deciding to help. Okay, all of these steps are interrelated. If at any step, if we come up with the analysis as no, automatically we will not move to the next step, such as if we perceive that there is a need of help, this will make us to move to the next stage, that taking a personal responsibility. And if we take that responsibility, burden comes on us saying yes, then it will make us to go and move to the next step, that is weighing cost and benefit, and ultimately that is about deciding to provide help. Okay, now we'll discuss a little bit more detail about all of these different four steps one by one. As I said, that perceiving a need is the basic footstep, key step in the decision making perspective. How we will decide whether a situation is a need situation or not. Obviously, that cannot be judged without any hints and clues. So, one of a research that was conducted by Shortland and Huston in 1979, he identified that there are 5 important characteristics that lead us to perceive an event as an emergency situation. Number 1, when something happens suddenly and unexpectedly. Number 2, when there is a clear threat of harm to a victim. Number 3, the harm to the victim is likely to increase over time unless someone helps or intervenes. Number 4, the victim is helpless and need outside assistance. And number 5, some sort of effective intervention is possible. We can say that if any person is having all of these possible indication or any one of these indication, we can declare that event, that we can declare that situation as an emergency situation. So critically analyzing a situation will makes us to label it as a need based situation, and saying yes to this criteria will make us to move to the next step, that is taking personal responsibility. In the second step, the deciding to help is taking personal responsibility. Consider the situation. We will be having our behavior to be based on basically on those situations specifically and on our qualities or abilities. There was a research in which it was demonstrated that how we take personal responsibility and how we behave according to the perceived responsibility that we are having. For that purpose, on Halloween, a group of children came to certain house while trick or treat, and they were being asked to donate candies for hospitalized children. There were 3 different groups that were taken. One group in which personal responsibility was given to each child by labeling their bag with their name. The other group of children, they were not individually given the responsibility, but only one child was responsible for the entire group's performance. And the third group, in which not a single child was given the responsibility that how much candy you can collect. It was quite astonishing that, with reference to the form of responsibility, when the children were given individual responsibility by labeling their bags with having their name mentioned, the donation was averaged, that is 5 candies. Whereas when entire group was given responsibility and not a single individual, um, and all the individuals' behavior was being asked to be analyzed on the basis of a single individual as a group leader, the behavior was lessened and it came to 3 candies. And the last was no one responsible for their performance, and the result was that only 2 candies was found in that bag. Now the next step is, that is third steps. Once we have evaluated the situation, analyzed the situation as a need situation, and we have taken the personal responsibility because of the need of situation plus our own potential and characteristics, we will be having in another step that is known weighing the cost and benefit. The decision-making perspective suggests that people consider the potential gains and loss that will result from particular action, including helping someone. A person will act pro-socially if the perceived profit of helping outweighs the profit of not helping. Sometimes it is relatively easy to help. At other times, helping involves considerable cost in time, energy, and possible complications. The greater the perceived cost is, the less likely you are ready to provide help. The benefit of giving helps also affect our decision making. The greater the good you believe you can do, the more likely you are to help. The more the person deserves to be helped and the more help you are able to give, the better you feel about offering assistance. It is also important to consider the consequence of not giving assistance, such as if you will not provide help to somebody, this will make you to feel guilty, and in turn this will make other people to behave negatively, or they will feel badly of you. And along with that, another important possible um, result of not providing help may be, that is, you may be having contradiction with your own moral values, that is to provide help to those who are in need of help. So this may be taken as one of the important steps in decision making process, in which you simply evaluate, analyze the cost and benefit ratio. If any behavior is less costly but more beneficial, then you are more likely to go for it. Now, coming towards the last step, that is deciding how to help. There is a mistake in my typing. Instead of deciding how, I have mistakenly written who. So please make correction. Deciding how to help is mainly concerned with the possible plan that you may think of, the way you may provide the help and you provide the assistance to the needy person. This may be involve direct intervention, such as doctors, nurses, paramedical staff. They directly provide help to injured people or any person who is not feeling well. Or indirect intervention, such as if somebody is in need of help and you are not good at providing first aid, you may call 911 or emergency, and you may call the ambulance. So this may be taken as indirect intervention. Next theory is attribution theory. Attribution theory suggests that whether or not a person receives help depends in parts on the merit of the case. Suppose you are shopping in a supermarket and you come up with a person who is asking for money in order to buy some milk. You are more likely to provide some money, but if the same situation has totally different angle, if you come up with an individual asking for money and just we want to buy a pack of cigarette, this may make you not to provide help, as you may take it that he is not on merit to provide help and assistance. Potential helpers also make inferences about the causes of the person's need. We simply evaluate the situation and think of the situation with reference to whether that situation is being caused by the person, needy person, or this is because of any other external environmental factor. In this table, inferences about causes of person need has been depicted. The perceived cause of the person's need with reference to emotional reaction to the person in need, and the third is willingness to provide help. If you evaluate that person who is in need of help is not under his control, something outside the person's control made him to have this situation, such as if a person is jobless, if he is in a poor health. So this may make you to give emotional reaction that will be based on sympathy and pity, and you are more likely to provide help to that person. That helping behavior is going to be very much high. The person is perceived as deserving help. Second possible situation will be when you think that the person have this situation because of his own behavior. That means he is mainly responsible for his this pity situation or poor situation. Something the person could control. Suppose a person is out of work because he is lazy and doesn't want to work. A child who doesn't completed his homework just because he wasted his time in playing. So these two possible examples suggest that these two individuals are responsible for their own failure or their own pity situation. And this in turn will makes us to emotional reaction, that is of anger and irritation. And in comparison to earlier these situation, our chances of willingness to help that person is going to be very much low, as we are considering that person is perceived as not deserving individual. So these was the theories or theoretical background of altruism and the way we can explain altruistic behavior, helping behavior, or pro-social behavior. So pro-social behavior, altruism, and helping behavior. All of these theories is applicable, and we can explain why a person do produce helping behavior in one situation and it is not possible for any other situation. Hope you have understand.